Hello again. Um, Now we move to chapter 4, the interview. You have noticed that we had a clear point. Some introductions are made about the character of Chillingworth in the previous chapter, so the writer here tries to explore this character in detail by revealing him with Hester in chapter 4. Chapter 4 is entitled The Interview. But we can take a guess, like what kind of interview, who is to be interviewed by whom. So um, the if you can notice some points here written in here. Hester's health. Chillingworth interferes for treatment. Chillingworth learns about some herbs, some medications. Are we to sympathize with Chillingworth or not? Some interactions, some conversations between Hester and Chillingworth are taking place in chapter 4. I'd just like to remind you that Chillingworth, when he first came, when he reached the land in New England, he was imprisoned, he was captivated by Red Indians. And the writer mentions that Chillingworth has learnt the profession of being a physician. So he started learning, like using herbs, يعني طبيب أعشاب, how to deal with herbs, which kind of herb heals what kind of sickness or disease. So he became a professional in this respect, beside his own knowledge about books, about sciences. As we know, he is already a scholar. He has studied a lot um, earlier before they came to New England. So from the very beginning, after her return to prison, I'd like to summarize here. After she returns from the prison, Hester is emotionally unstable because of the public shame she was exposed to, and her child is also crying and feeling some pain. So they required somebody to interfere in order to pacify them, in order to comfort them and provide them with some medications. So Chillingworth volunteered as far as he knows in this kind of a profession. So he volunteered to treat them, and nobody knows who he is. So he was admitted to the prison in order to treat Hester. So here in page 64, we find Chillingworth talking with the jailer, Master Brackett. He asked him to leave him alone with his patient. Pray thee, friend, leave me alone with my patient. Trust me, good jailer, you shall briefly have peace in your house, in your prison, because the child and the lady will no more cry or because of pain. I promise you, Mistress Pran shall hereafter be more amenable to just authority than you may have found her heretofore. Um, his first care was given to the child, whose cries, indeed, as they lay wreathing on the tumble bed, made it. So he first treated the child and gave some medications to the child. That's why he was scalped. It was actually, I keep, as far as it's a child, I use the masculine pronoun, but it's supposed to be she because she is a girl, a baby girl. My oldest studies in alchemy observed he, and my sojourn, his time of captivity for above a year, more than a year, he was captivated with the Red Indians, well versed in the kindly properties of simples, have made a better physician of me than many that claim the medical degree. So he is a better doctor than many people. She is none of mine. The child is yours. She is none of mine. Neither will she recognize my voice or aspect. As a father, Hester repelled the effort, administered this draft. Draft is a kind of like a syrup, مثل الشراب, in order to pacify the child. She repelled it, she rejected it. Wouldst thou avenge thyself on the innocent babe? Hester exclaimed. You will commit your revenge by killing this baby? Foolish woman, half coldly, half soothingly. What should ail me to harm this misbegotten and miserable babe? Why would I hurt this little child? I could do no better. If it's even if it's mine, I could do no better. So this is the best I could do, whether it is my child or yours. Here, some reference to some Greek mythological stories. I know not Leith or Nepenthe, remarked he, but I have learned many new secrets in the wilderness. Leith and Nepenthe. Leith is, see here, the river of forgetfulness, and Nepenthe is a Greek drug that causes forgetfulness. So he is the writer here refers to these things. Chillingworth tries to show that if he knows these things, he would forget this what happened to his wife, but he doesn't know these things. I cannot give thee, but it will calm the swell and having of thy passion, like oil thrown on the waves of tempestuous sea. So he is also giving some medication for his wife. I have thought of death. Now we find Hester describing her situation. Um, I have thought of death, said she, have wished for it, would even have prayed for it, were it fit that such as I should pray for anything. Yet if death be in this cup, I bid thee think again before thou beholdest me, quaffit, see it even now at my lips. So she shows that she is not afraid of death. She has wished to die because of her situation, and she is not scared from this kind of cup, even though it's harmless. Drink then, replied he, still with the same cold composure. Dost thou know me so little? You don't know me. I am your husband, Hester. Are my purposes wont to be so shallow? This is not my objective. These are not my goals. Even if I imagine a scheme of vengeance, what could I do better for my object than to let thee live? If I want to be revengeful, if I want to do vengeance to you, so my purpose would to lengthen your life, not to kill you, because keeping you alive will make you suffer, will make you cry and be punished more and more. So this is not his own purpose. Hester said, I ask not wherefore nor how thou hast fallen into the pit. Chillingworth speaks. I don't ask how you came into this problem, or why, or what kind of circumstances, um, and why you came to the pedestal of infamy, to the scaffold. The reason is not far to seek. It was my folly. I know the reasons behind this problem. It was my folly. Folly means hamaqa, some foolish thing. And thy weakness, and because you were very weak that you were seduced by somebody. I am a man of thought, a scholar, a man of books and knowledge, a bookworm, duda mal kutub, of great libraries, a man already in decay, having given my best years to feed the hungry dream of knowledge. I do with youth and beauty like thine. What had I to do with the youth? So now he regrets marrying such a lady because he was not equivalent to this kind of beauty. He was supposed not to capture, let's say, such a beautiful young lady and be connected with him like a misshapen. He was, he has a deformity in his shoulders from my birth hour. How could I um, delude myself with the idea that intellectual gifts might veil physical deformity? Intellectual, because she was poor, she belonged to a poor family. So the gifts that he has given to her family, to herself, and now he confesses these kind of gifts could not cover or hide the deformity he had. Men call me wise. If sage were ever wise in their own behoof, I might have foreseen all this. Um, thou knowest, said Hester, for depressed as she was, she could not endure this last quite a stab at the token of her shame, that I was frank with thee. Here, the writer clarifies that Hester was very clear with her husband from the very beginning. She did not love him, and she has not pretended to love him. I felt no love, nor feigned any, nor pretended to love you. True, it was my folly, I have said it, but up to that epoch of my life I had lived in vain. The world had been so cheerless, my heart was a habitation large enough for many guests, but lonely and chill and without a household fire. Now, if you notice the kind of language, it has started to become more simple, more lenient, and flexible than ever. If you pay attention to the first two chapters, the language is a little bit complex, very complicated jargons, words, but here you find a very simple everyday language. I longed to kindle one, it seemed not so wild a dream old as I was. Here, he said, I dreamed of having a lady, but the problem is in his choice because he was not good enough to treat that kind of lady. She was young and she required a young man to deal with her spirit. And he was old and deformed and keeping himself busy with things other than love and a wife. I have greatly wronged thee, murmured Hester. Now, he says, it was my folly, and she says, I have greatly wronged thee by committing adultery. She was not loyal to him. We have wronged each other, answered he. Mine was the first, and he was the first person who did the mistake. So now, based on this kind of confession by these two, we understand that they have wronged each other. So they have done, so they are now equal to each other. A man who has not thought and philosophized in vain, I seek no vengeance. So he is not going to revenge or from her. Between you and me, the scale hangs fairly balanced. The scale, al-mizan, is very balanced between them because they have committed mistake in the right of each other. So he is not going to revenge from her. But the man who lives, who has wronged us both, who is he? The man who committed adultery, the seducer of Hester, he is asking about him, and she replies, ask me not, because you will never know. Thou shalt never know. So here we move to I come to the inquest with other senses that they possess. I shall seek this man. Because if you remember in the previous chapter, he said, he will be known, he will be known, he will be known. So this is going to be his plan to live in this place in order to look for him. The eyes of the wrinkled scholar glowed so intensely upon her that she clasped her hand over. So she tried to keep her hand over her heart, in order not, in order to stop him from penetrating her heart and learning about the secret. So here at the end of the interview, he asked Hester to keep silent about his identity, as she kept the identity of the seducer hidden. So he asked her to keep his identity hidden until he learns and recognizes the adulterer. One thing thou shalt was my wife, as far as you are my wife, I would enjoin upon thee, continued the scholar. Thou hast kept the secret of thy paramour, keep likewise mine. There are none in this land that know me, so you need to keep my identity a secret. Because I will not encounter the dishonor that besmirches the husband of a faithless woman. This is why, one reason why he doesn't want her to show his identity, in order not to feel the shame of his wife when if they know him, and to commit his own vengeance towards this person. So he asked her to promise him, and she swear it, rejoin he, and she took the oath. She promised him not to show his identity, and later she compares him to the black man that haunts the forest round about us. you see a blank man who haunts the forest. This is related to the very introduction I gave you in the beginning of the course when we talked about Puritanism and their concepts. They consider the forest and the open nature as a place for the Satan. So this is related to the Puritan ideologies. So, not thy soul, he answered with another smile, not the. So, the revenge, the vengeance that he will take is not from Hester, but it is supposed to be from the seducer. This chapter reveals the encounter between Hester and her husband, and now we learn about how do they feel about each other, their past and their present, and what's going to happen in the future as Chillingworth a promise to reveal the character of the seducer. This is what we needed from chapter 4, the interview.